You know that royal storm everyone's been waiting for? Well, it finally hit, and it wasn't pretty. New York was supposed to be Harry and Meghan's big "we're still unbreakable" moment. The smiles, the matching outfits, that effortless calm, all meant to remind the world they still had it all under control. But what unfolded that night looked less like a comeback and more like a collapse. They arrived at the Humanitarian of the Year Gala, Meghan dazzling in a custom Armani power suit, layered in diamonds worth more than a Manhattan skyline, while Harry looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Flash after flash went off. She shined for the cameras, he stood frozen, jaw tight, eyes distant, a man clearly somewhere else entirely. People who were there said the tension was impossible to miss. During the event, Meghan shot him a brief, almost playful glance, but his forced smile never quite reached his eyes. By the end of the night, she was spotted having dinner alone, and soon the murmurs began. It didn't take long for word to spread. They'd gone their separate ways. For a couple once nicknamed Salt and Pepper for being inseparable, that moment said it all. What was supposed to be their big revival turned into the first glimpse of a breakup in motion. But here's the thing, New York wasn't the start of the storm. It was just the moment the cracks finally showed. Because before that night, something had already gone wrong. Thousands of miles away in Paris, that's where everything began to unravel. Everyone knows how deep Harry's scars with Paris run, the city forever tied to his mother, Princess Diana, the place that changed his life before it even began. For years, he couldn't bring himself to go anywhere near it. So when Meghan suddenly flew to Paris alone for what she called a business trip, people noticed, and those close to Harry say he completely broke down. People around them say Meghan wasn't just going for meetings. She was seen filming near the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, yes, that tunnel, where Diana's car met its fate. Let that sink in. Friends said Harry was crushed when he found out. She knew exactly what that place meant, one friend shared. Nothing Meghan does is ever by accident. Meghan reportedly brushed off the backlash, insisting it was all work-related. But to Harry, it felt like betrayal wrapped in a photo op, turning the city that haunted his memories into the backdrop for her brand. From that moment on, something changed. Her ambitions started clashing with his pain. The flashing lights, the fame, the non-stop chase for attention, everything he'd tried to escape was right back in his face. And deep down, Harry knew this wasn't another argument or publicity fight. This was the moment something inside him cracked. Paris wasn't just another trip, it was the breaking point. Now about that other man everyone's been talking about, not quite the scandal you'd expect, but close. Enter Marcus Anderson. If you followed Meghan for a while, you've heard his name. Stylish, charming, and always just a little too present. From brunches in Toronto during her Suits days to Montecito dinners and red carpet events, Marcus seems to show up everywhere she goes. He's always there, one insider said quietly. Sometimes it feels like there are three people in that marriage: Harry, Meghan, and Marcus. And here's where things start to twist. Marcus isn't just another friend. He's connected to powerful people who always seem to appear right where Meghan does. But soon his presence would go from harmless to headline-worthy, and not in the way anyone expected. Marcus isn't just stylish, he's plugged in. He moves within the same orbit as the Soho House crowd. The LA insiders, the power players who open doors faster than any royal title ever could. Meghan's closeness to him, according to people who know them, isn't just about friendship, it's about access, influence, and strategy. Meanwhile, Harry's patience seems to be wearing thin. Those around him say he often feels like a guest in his own marriage, quietly watching as Meghan builds a world where he no longer fits. At those high-profile events, while she shines in conversation with Marcus and her Hollywood circle, Harry fades quietly into the background. He was once her equal, now he's more like the plus one to his own story. Sure, every famous couple puts on a little performance for the cameras, but Harry and Meghan, they've turned it into an art form. Watch them step onto any red carpet, she's magnetic, perfectly posed, drinking in every shout from the press pit. He's tense, scanning the crowd, looking like a man trapped in a loop he can't break. Those bright flashes that excite her still echo the night that haunts him most, the night his mother never came home. And yet Meghan thrives under that glare. There's even that viral clip from the gala. Harry reaches out to take her hand, but she subtly pulls away, then turns to the crowd with that flawless smile as if nothing happened at all. It was a blink and you'll miss it moment, but for those watching closely, it said everything. That tiny moment, her hand pulling away from his, said more than any headline ever could. One person close to them didn't hold back. She's in love with the spotlight, not the man beside her. And honestly, it shows. People who've been around the couple say it's obvious now. Harry can't stand the circus, but for Meghan, it's oxygen. The lights, the photos, the constant applause, that's where she feels alive. And every time she drags him into that performance, he fades a little more into the background. They're not chasing the same dream anymore. Meghan's fighting to stay relevant while Harry's just trying to stay sane. The brighter her light gets, the darker his corner becomes. When the photographers finally stop and the world goes quiet, there's just two perfectly dressed people standing side by side, looking in opposite directions. Remember when they swore they were leaving royal life behind for peace, privacy, and a little sunshine? What they got instead feels like the same old palace drama, just with a Hollywood filter. Moving to Montecito was supposed to be a new beginning. No courtiers, no rules, no royal script. But a few years later, it looks more like a rerun than a rebirth. Friends say Harry pictured something simple. Family dinners, time with the kids, maybe a small foundation to do good quietly. Meghan, on the other hand, was already thinking bigger: global partnerships, brand deals, high-profile interviews, Netflix specials, and yes, even that doomed jam business everyone still jokes about. One insider summed it up perfectly. They didn't leave one palace, they just built another. Only this one glitters with camera flashes instead of chandeliers. And the courtiers, they're PR managers now. They never really escaped the fame. They just redesigned it, and this time, Meghan's the one holding the crown. But that crown, it's starting to slip, and the cracks in their perfect picture are getting harder to hide. That crown everyone thought Meghan was wearing so effortlessly, it's starting to feel a lot heavier, because behind the glamour, the story isn't nearly as flawless as it looks. People close to their foundation say meetings are rare, plans get lost, and no one really knows what the mission is anymore. Around Los Angeles, there's quiet talk that their activism has turned into performance, a show dressed up as purpose. One insider said it best: "It's not about changing lives anymore. It's about staying in the spotlight." Even Harry's speech that night raised eyebrows. He spoke passionately about greed and corruption while living a life wrapped in luxury deals and private jets. Meanwhile, Meghan treated the gala like her own premiere: sleek tailoring, glittering diamonds, a hotel suite costing nearly $2,000 a night. The irony? A couple preaching humility while sparkling under chandeliers worth more than most houses. It didn't feel like charity, it felt like cinema. So what's really going on behind those Montecito gates? Insiders describe a life that's both dazzling and lonely. They share the same roof but seem to live in different worlds. Meghan spends her days in strategy calls, curating her image, planning her next big moment. Harry, on the other hand, retreats into quiet, long walks, time with the kids, and hours lost in books once the cameras stop rolling. They're not fighting, one friend said, they're just disconnected. The silence between them says more than words ever could. No shouting, no chaos, just the quiet drift of two people moving in opposite directions. Even their friends notice it. Meghan's back to hosting brunches with LA power players, her calendar stacked with meetings and PR calls. Harry, meanwhile, is rarely seen at all. When he does appear, one guest described him softly: "He looks like someone surviving, not living." Behind closed doors, people whisper about space, a quiet separation without the paperwork. No public breakup, no statements, just distance. A real divorce? Not likely. There's too much brand, too much money, too much legacy holding it together. They can't walk away clean, one insider said. So they pose for the cameras and retreat to silence once the lights go down. It's haunting, a love story that once shattered royal walls, now crumbling under its own weight. A prince who gave up everything for love, and a woman who promised to build a new world beside him. That dream feels heavy now, buried under exhaustion, frustration, and the endless need to keep up appearances. Those closest to them say it's not really a marriage anymore. It's a business, calculated, transactional, and bound by obligation. They show up when the optics demand it, pose when expected, then drift back into their corners. Meghan's chasing relevance, Harry's chasing peace, and no matter how far apart they drift, they can't escape the empire they built together. It's a golden cage, breathtaking on the outside, suffocating on the inside. One friend said it perfectly: they're trapped in their own creation. The real tragedy isn't that they've grown apart, it's that they can't stop performing. Even alone, they're still playing the roles that made them famous. So the next time you see that perfect photo, that glowing clip of them holding hands, remember, it's not love you're seeing, it's a rehearsal, a fading illusion built for the camera. Because once upon a time, they walked away from the crown for freedom. But somewhere along the way, that freedom turned into another throne, one built from attention, pressure, and performance. And now the cracks in that perfect facade, they're getting harder to hide. And for those watching closely, it's starting to look like the fairy tale might finally be breaking apart. When the image you built to survive starts turning against you, that's when the real cracks begin to show. Inside their Montecito mansion, the quiet isn't peaceful anymore. It's calculated. Behind the smiles and curated interviews, there's one word echoing through every conversation: control. Meghan's PR team reportedly manages everything from lighting and camera angles to which stories make it online. If a headline drifts too far from the brand, it's handled fast. A royal cleanup, just without the crown. Those who've seen it up close say Harry sits through meetings that feel more like boardroom sessions than moments between a husband and wife. He's polite but restless, checking the clock while advisors talk about messaging consistency. To Meghan, it's strategy. To him, it's just another performance. One friend described it best. She's building an empire, he's just trying to breathe inside it. People in Hollywood talk about media calendars, planning when the couple will appear, who they'll be seen with, even what cause they'll champion next. Meghan calls it structure. Harry calls it a script. He once asked why their lives sound like a Netflix pitch. The answer? Silence. Then came the breaking point. A private disagreement somehow leaked to the tabloids within hours. Harry was livid. Meghan brushed it off as collateral damage. But those close to him say that was the moment he realized something chilling. Their privacy wasn't stolen, it was being sold. Behind the scenes, the same struggle plays out with their projects. Harry wants truth, unfiltered, honest moments. Meghan wants polish, precision, control. The clash leaves their teams exhausted, juggling edits, deadlines, and egos. Friends describe Harry now as a man stuck between truth and brand. He escaped one palace only to find himself locked inside another, built not from duty or tradition, but from lighting cues and hashtags. Every public smile, every polished frame pulls him deeper into the same world he once swore he'd left behind. For Harry, it's déjà vu. Another palace, another performance. Only this time, he can't tell where duty ends and fame begins. Because when your life becomes your product, eventually you forget where the performance ends and the person begins. In Hollywood, loyalty lasts only as long as the spotlight, and lately, that light's been fading fast. The same industry that once couldn't get enough of Meghan and Harry is now quietly stepping back. The buzz that used to follow them everywhere, it's gone quiet, invitations are slowing down, and the star power that once made executives swoon now seems to make them nervous. Netflix, once their golden ticket, has reportedly shifted from celebration to hesitation. Their docuseries drew views, sure, but nothing since has hit the same way. Meetings keep getting postponed, projects stall, and whispers of creative burnout float through production offices. One Hollywood insider put it simply, the shine wore off faster than anyone thought, even Meghan's ventures. The lifestyle brand, the podcast extensions, the glossy new ideas are said to be losing traction. People love the story, but the numbers don't match the hype. Executives talk about rebranding fatigue, saying her image feels too curated, too calculated to connect. And in a town that feeds on mystique, overexposure can be fatal. Harry, meanwhile, has never looked more detached. Friends say he shows up when expected, stands quietly on the sidelines, while Meghan works every room with practiced grace. She's fighting to keep the empire alive, one source said. He's just trying not to disappear inside it. Their tension isn't private anymore, it's industry gossip. Producers whisper about uncomfortable meetings, creative clashes, and icy silences that linger after the cameras stop. Meghan pushes for visibility. Harry craves space. It's a battle between spotlight and shadow. And in Hollywood, there's one rule that never changes. When the buzz fades, so does the favor. The same allies who once couldn't wait to be seen beside them now plead scheduling conflicts. Red carpet invites that once flooded in now barely trickle through. For a couple who turned rebellion into a brand, the quiet from Hollywood feels louder than applause. And somewhere in that silence, they're learning fame's cruelest truth. It doesn't end when people stop watching. It ends when they stop caring. Across the ocean, the palace hasn't uttered a single word, but the silence itself has weight. It's not neglect, it's strategy. While Harry and Meghan's Hollywood glow dims, the royal family continues its steady march forward, coldly efficient and immaculately composed. The calendar fills with galas, charity appearances, and official visits, but one thing's noticeably missing: Harry's name. It's been quietly scrubbed from briefings, omitted from royal rundowns, edited out of the family's narrative like a chapter that no longer fits the story. It's as if the monarchy is tidying up the past, rewriting it one polite omission at a time. Behind the palace gates, insiders describe a collective calm, not vengeful, but self-assured. He made his choice, one courtier allegedly said, and the institution made theirs. In royal terms, silence isn't absence, it's exile by design. They don't need to respond publicly because they've already won privately. The monarchy doesn't argue, it simply outlasts, and for an establishment that thrives on longevity, Harry's rebellion is nothing more than a momentary tremor in a centuries-old foundation. But outside those gates, the media refuses to let the silence settle. British tabloids feed on the contrast between brothers, William, the poised heir, and Harry, the restless outcast. Each headline pushes the divide deeper, painting one as duty incarnate and the other as the prince who lost his way chasing the wrong kind of freedom. Meghan's image flips daily between predator and prey, manipulator and muse. It's the same theater she once tried to escape, only now she's performing without a script. And yet the real sting doesn't come from the headlines, it comes from the slow erasure. The palace knows that memory fades fastest in stillness. There will be no public feuds, no rebuttals, no scandalous statements, just empty chairs at royal gatherings and quiet absences in family portraits. Their punishment isn't public humiliation, it's invisibility. The monarchy doesn't destroy its black sheep, it forgets them. For Harry, that silence cuts deeper than condemnation. Once he was the beloved son of a grieving nation, the boy who walked behind his mother's coffin and stole hearts by simply surviving. Now he's the ghost of his own story, existing outside the frame while the family moves forward as if he never left a mark. The palace hasn't just distanced itself from him, it has turned him into a cautionary tale told in whispers over afternoon tea. The irony, the louder Hollywood gets, the quieter the palace becomes. And somehow in that imbalance, the crown always wins. Freedom was supposed to feel lighter than this. When Harry walked away from the palace gates, he imagined peace. Mornings without cameras, nights without headlines, a life defined by purpose instead of protocol. But somewhere along the way, that dream curdled. The silence he once craved now feels suffocating, and the spotlight he tried to escape still finds him, only this time it doesn't flatter, it exposes. Those close to him say he's restless, drifting between moments of determination and doubt. Some mornings he's deeply involved in charity work, passionately drafting ideas about veterans or mental health. Other days he vanishes into himself, long walks, headphones in, trying to outrun the noise in his head. He thought leaving would fix him, said one friend. But he's realizing peace doesn't come with a new postcode. In Montecito, he's surrounded by beauty, the ocean view, the sunlight, the serenity. But even paradise can feel like a cage when you don't know who you are without your past. He's no longer the prince of a kingdom, yet not fully the man he wanted to become. Every headline, every podcast clip, every viral post drags the old narrative back into view. He's torn, one insider said. He doesn't miss the palace, but he misses belonging to something. Meanwhile, Meghan moves differently. Focused, composed, relentlessly forward. Her eyes stay on the next project, the next partnership, the next reinvention. She's learned how to survive in the Hollywood ecosystem, but Harry, he's still learning how to exist in it. The pace that energizes her drains him. Friends say he's tired of being an accessory to her spotlight, tired of the subtle branding of their lives. He wanted purpose, one source said. Now he feels like content. The realization that haunts him most is that he left one stage for another. The palace controlled his image through duty. Hollywood does it through exposure. Different worlds, same choreography. Every smile is still rehearsed, every move still measured. He traded a crown for a camera lens, and now even his rebellion feels commodified. This is Harry's reckoning, not with his family, but with himself. The boy who once defined courage through defiance must now find it in stillness. He's learning that freedom isn't about running away, it's about facing what follows you. And sometimes the hardest truth to confront is that peace was never waiting out there, it's something he has to rebuild inside. In the end, maybe this was never just a royal saga. Maybe it was always a story about two people trying to outrun the expectations of the world, and realizing that no one truly escapes the weight of the spotlight. They left behind titles, crowns, and courtiers, only to find themselves trapped in something even more relentless, fame. It doesn't rest, it doesn't forgive. It follows you from palaces to penthouses, from headlines to history books. The palace might have lost its prince, and Hollywood might be losing its favorite couple, but the world is still watching, still waiting for the next act. Because that's what this has become. Not a love story, not a rebellion, but a performance that refuses to end. For Harry and Meghan, the show doesn't stop when the cameras do. It just changes venues. One day it's London, the next it's Los Angeles. One week it's a red carpet, the next it's an emotional interview. The stage keeps shifting, but the story stays the same. They once promised they were stepping back to find peace, but peace doesn't sell. Drama does. And in chasing the light, they became part of the very machine they tried to escape. Every move, every quote, every appearance becomes another scene in a story the world can't stop replaying. Somewhere between the flashbulbs and the silence, between truth and performance, They blurred the line between who they are and who the world wants them to be. They left one crown behind, only to build another, forged from public curiosity, held together by perception. And maybe that's the haunting truth. The crown they ran from wasn't made of metal at all. It was made of attention. And no matter how far they run, it's still sitting right above their heads, gleaming, heavy, and impossible to take off.